Calvin Hayes had 43 cents and 76 hours before his sister was gone forever. The 8-year-old had been carrying the coins for 3 weeks. 1 quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 3 pennies, waiting for the right moment. When he saw the Hells Angels patch at Riverside gas station, he remembered Grandpa's words before he died. Find the bikers. They protect people. 3 years ago, his brother Oliver disappeared. His father said Oliver went away. Now his 6-year-old sister Hazel was next. Calvin had evidence nobody believed. He had 43 cents, and he had 1 chance to save her. What 180 Hells Angels discovered next would rescue 2 children, expose the truth about what really happened to Oliver, and prove that courage doesn't need a bank account, just belief that someone will listen. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Enjoy the story. Please, sir, I have 43 cents. That's everything I have. Can you please buy my sister back from my stepdad? The words came out shaky, but clear in the November cold. 38 degrees. Light drizzle making the gas station pavement slick and dark. The smell of gasoline mixed with diesel exhaust and wet asphalt. Calvin Hayes stood 6 feet from the biggest man he'd ever seen in real life. 6'4", maybe 300 pounds. Gray-brown beard braided at the tip. Shaved head. Full-sleeve tattoos on both arms. Black leather vest covered in patches. Hells Angels, President, Pennsylvania Chapter, Army Veteran, POW/MIA. The man had been pumping gas into a massive Harley when Calvin approached. Now he'd frozen mid-motion, gas pump handle still in his hand, staring down at the tiny boy with the open palm showing coins. Calvin's hand shook. The coins clicked together. 1 quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 3 pennies. Behind him, 50 feet away at the fence, Hazel watched. 6 years old. Pink dress with white flowers. White cardigan too big. Sleeves past her hands. She clutched the chain link with small fingers, blonde hair in 2 neat braids, pale blue eyes wide with fear and desperate hope. Calvin swallowed. Tried again. Voice stronger this time. He's selling her Friday to bad people. He already sold my brother Oliver 3 years ago for $120,000. Oliver never came back. I tried to tell teachers. I tried to tell police. Nobody believes me, but I have proof. I wrote everything down. Please, I'll give you all my money. The gas pump clicked off. Tank full. But the man didn't move. Didn't reach for the pump. Just stared at Calvin with dark eyes that were processing, calculating, evaluating. 3 seconds of silence. The sound of traffic on Route 22, a bell dinging as someone entered the mini-mart, a car engine starting. Then the massive man did something Calvin hadn't expected. He took off his sunglasses, set them on the motorcycle seat. Took 3 slow steps toward Calvin, closing distance but not rushing, not threatening, and lowered himself to 1 knee on the wet pavement, making himself small, getting to Calvin's eye level. Now, you might be thinking a Hells Angels president finds an 8-year-old with 43 cents claiming child trafficking, and his first move is to call police or dismiss it as confusion. That's not the story you expected, is it? But Gerald "Tank" Morrison had carried his daughter Melissa's photo in his vest pocket every single day for 18 years. 4 years old when she drowned. Tank deployed overseas, missed the funeral, never got to say goodbye. He'd spent nearly 2 decades asking himself what he could have done differently. Looking at Calvin, this skinny boy in faded jeans with patches on both knees, blue hoodie with a stain, worn sneakers too small, Tank saw every reason he'd survived when his daughter hadn't. "Son?" Tank's voice came out rough but gentle. "You keep your money." One massive hand reached out, didn't take the coins. Instead, gently closed Calvin's fingers around them. "Now tell me your name, and tell me about your sister." Calvin's breath came out in a visible cloud. Relief flooded through him so intense his knees almost buckled. "My name is Calvin Hayes. I'm 8. My sister is Hazel. She's 6. My dad is Richard Hayes. He's selling her Friday at 9 p.m. in Oakwood State Forest to bad people for $150,000. Tank's hand moved to his vest pocket, the one over his heart, where Melissa's photo lived. His eyes narrowed. "Say that again. Slowly." 3 years ago, my brother Oliver went away." The words tumbled out faster now. "Dad said a nice family adopted him, but I heard Dad on the phone before Oliver left. He said $120,000 cash, same as we discussed." Oliver cried. He didn't want to go. Strangers came and took him. Dad got money. Then Dad started saying Hazel is going to a better family, too. Calvin's voice cracked. He forced himself to continue. "Last Sunday I heard Dad on the phone again. I wrote down everything. Friday the 15th, 9 p.m., Oakwood Forest, mile marker 7, same as Oliver's location. Dad said $150,000 cash. Buyers from New Jersey, blonde girl under 10. He said, Hazel's prepared, she'll comply, she knows what happens if she makes trouble." Tank's entire body went still. His jaw clenched. The hand over his vest pocket curled into a fist. Across the parking lot, another biker, fueling a pickup truck at Pump 5, noticed Tank's posture. Something in the way Tank had frozen. The other biker set down his pump handle, started walking over. "Calvin." Tank's voice was deadly quiet now. "Look at me." Calvin met his eyes. Dark brown, intense, but not scary. Focused. "I need to know. Did you see proof? Or did you hear things that might have been something else?" This was the moment Calvin had prepared for. The reason he'd written everything down immediately, dated and timed, hidden in the hollowed-out copy of Where the Red Fern Grows that Oliver had given him before disappearing. "I have proof," Calvin whispered. "Sunday night, November 10th, 10:17 p.m. Dad was in his office. I heard through the heating vent. He said..." Calvin pulled a crumpled piece of notebook paper from his hoodie pocket, unfolded it with shaking hands, read in a flat, memorized voice. "Friday the 15th, 9 p.m., Oakwood State Forest, mile marker 7 on the logging road. Same as Oliver's location. Easy to find, no cameras, no witnesses." Then he said, "Yes, $150,000 cash like we agreed. Small bills, nothing over 50s. The buyers are coming from New Jersey. Couple in their 40s. Can't have biological children. Willing to pay premium for blonde girl under 10. Then he said..." Calvin's voice broke. He swallowed hard. "She's prepared. I've been telling her for months she's going to a better family. She cries sometimes, but she'll comply. Hazel's obedient. Learned that lesson after I sold Oliver." The second biker had arrived. Stocky, mid-40s, vest reading wrench. He stood 3 feet behind Tank, listening. His expression darkened with every word. Calvin continued reading, voice shaking but determined. "Calvin? The 8-year-old son? He's suspicious, but who's going to listen to an 8-year-old? He has no proof, no evidence, no way to stop this. But I do have proof. I wrote it all down. I hid it. And Calvin looked up from the paper. And I think something happened to Oliver. He's not with a better family. I think he's gone. And Hazel's next. And I have 43 cents and nobody will help us. And you're my last chance because Grandpa said Hell's Angels protect people even when everyone else looks away. The words hung in the air. Traffic sounds. A door slamming. Wind rustling bare branches. Tank placed both massive hands on Calvin's shoulders. Gentle. Firm. Calvin, listen to me. You did everything right. You're the bravest kid I've ever met. He stood, keeping one hand on Calvin's shoulder, raised the other to signal wrench. And I'm going to tell you something. Hell's Angels don't need your 43 cents. We do this for free, because that's what we do. We protect kids. And your sister? She's protected now. Tank pulled out his phone. Dialed without looking at the screen. Muscle memory number. Put it to his ear. 1 ring, 2. Hammer. It's Tank. Brief pause. I need every brother within 60 miles at the clubhouse. Now. The voice on the other end. Mitchell, Hammer Brennan, ex-Marine scout sniper, Tank's second in command, asked a question Calvin couldn't hear. Tank's response was flat, controlled fury barely contained. 8-year-old just approached me at Riverside gas station. His father is selling his 6-year-old sister to human traffickers Friday night. Already sold their brother 3 years ago for $120,000. Kid has written documentation of overheard phone conversations. Transaction scheduled in 76 hours. We're not waiting for police to take their time on this one. Pause. Shorter this time. Say no more. We're coming. The line went dead. And that was it. No questions about proof or evidence. No concerns about legal complications. No debates. Just immediate, total commitment. Because that's what Brotherhood meant. Tank turned to Wrench. Call Wire. I need him at the clubhouse in 30 minutes with his forensic kit. Tell him to bring everything. We're building a case that'll stand up in federal court. Wrench nodded, already dialing. Tank knelt again in front of Calvin. Removed his leather vest, the sacred Hell's Angels colors that marked him as president, that he never took off, and draped it over Calvin's narrow shoulders. The vest swallowed him, hung to his ankles, weighed heavy with patches, with history, with meaning. You're wearing my colors now, Tank said quietly. That means you're Hell's Angels. That means 47 brothers just became your family. And we protect family. He reached to his own wrist, removed a worn leather bracelet, dark with age, Melissa's name engraved in careful letters. 18 years he'd worn it, every single day. Tied it around Calvin's wrist. Too big. Wrapped it twice. Secured it. My daughter's name was Melissa. She was 4 when she died. Every day I wear this and I remember. I couldn't save her, but I can save someone else's daughter. Tank's voice roughened. Today that's Hazel. You brought her to the right person. Calvin looked down at the vest, at the bracelet, then back up at Tank. What about my 43 cents? Tank smiled. First time Calvin had seen it. Changed his whole face. Less terrifying. More Dad. You keep your 43 cents, son. That's your courage money. That's the money you were willing to give everything for your sister. That's worth more than all the money in the world. You hold on to that. And when you're older, when someone else needs help, you remember, 43 cents and courage is all it takes to change everything. Behind Calvin, at the fence, Hazel took 2 steps forward. Pink dress soaked at the hem from standing in puddles, small fingers still clutching chain link. "Calvin?" Her voice was tiny, scared, hopeful. Tank stood, motioned to her. "Come here, sweetheart. You're safe now." Hazel hesitated. 3 seconds. Then ran, awkward child run, arms pumping, braids bouncing, straight to Calvin. Crashed into him, wrapped thin arms around his waist. Calvin hugged her back with one arm, the other clutching the notebook paper like it was the most valuable thing in the world. Because it was. Tank watched them. 2 kids in worn-out clothes holding each other in a gas station parking lot. The girl wearing a dress that was supposed to be for family photos that were actually for buyers to evaluate her. The boy wearing a Hells Angels president's vest and a dead girl's bracelet. What Richard Hayes didn't know, couldn't have known, was that the moment Calvin opened his palm showing 43 cents, he'd triggered something that couldn't be stopped. Not by fake paperwork or community standing or a CPA license or 8 years as church treasurer. Because Hells Angels didn't need courts or warrants or official channels. They just needed truth and courage and 76 hours. And they had all 3. Tank's Choppers, 5:47 p.m. The motorcycle shop sat at the end of Industrial Park Road. Big metal building. Sign out front. Tank's Choppers, custom builds and repairs. Behind it, separated by a tall fence, the Hells Angels Pennsylvania Chapter Clubhouse. By 6 p.m., the parking lot was full. 47 motorcycles lined the asphalt in perfect formation. Harleys, mostly. Some choppers. A few touring bikes. Chrome gleaming even in the gray November evening. Inside the clubhouse, men stood shoulder to shoulder. Leather vests. Patches marking chapters, positions. Years served. Some had gray beards. Some were younger, faces still smooth. All of them wore the same expression. Controlled fury. Tank stood at the head of the room. Calvin beside him, still wearing the vest that hung to his ankles. Hazel sat on a folding chair 2 feet away, wrapped in Wrench's spare jacket. She'd been shivering, lips turning blue from standing in the cold drizzle at the gas station fence. "Brothers," Tank's voice cut through the low murmur. "Let me tell you what we're dealing with." He laid out the facts. Simple, clear, no emotion wasted. Richard Thomas Hayes, 43 years old. CPA, church treasurer, respected community member, widowed father of 3. Sold his stepson Oliver Hayes 3 years ago for $120,000 to an illegal adoption ring. Child was 7. Transaction in Oakwood State Forest. Same location scheduled for Hazel's sale. Embezzled $87,000 from church funds. Gambling addiction. In debt again. Planned to sell Hazel for $150,000. Clear debts. Avoid prison. Eliminate financial problems. Calvin had documentation. Notebook with exact quotes. Dates. Times. Names. Failed interventions. CPS called by teacher. Case closed. Grandmother filed for emergency custody. Denied by court. School counselor followed up. Accepted Richard's lies. Police welfare check. Found no visible injuries. Filed report. Child safe. Hazel's sale scheduled Friday, November 15th, 9 p.m. Buyers from New Jersey. Cash transaction. Same broker who arranged Oliver's sale. Vincent Michael Carter, Philadelphia-based trafficker. When Tank finished, the room was silent. Mitchell Hammer Brennan, 44, ex-Marine, scarred hands from 20 years of riding, raised his hand. "Oliver, do we know if he's alive?" "Not yet," Tank said, "but we're going to find out." "Wire?" Thomas Wire Sullivan stepped forward. 37. Thin frame. Wireframe glasses. IT security expert. Looked more like a software engineer than a biker, because he was both. "Already started," Wire said. "Richard's phone records, bank accounts, communications. I can access all of it remotely. Vincent Carter's operation in Philadelphia, I'll have his location by midnight. If there are records of Oliver's sale, I'll find them." "Preacher?" Tank turned to another brother. Gerald Preacher Santos, 58, graying beard, calm eyes, nodded. Ex-FBI agent. Retired after 25 years. Knew every federal trafficking statute by heart. "I'll coordinate with my contacts in FBI," Preacher said. "Child trafficking is federal, but we document everything by the book, chain of custody, witness statements, recordings if possible. Everything admissible. I'll make sure when we hand this to feds, it's airtight." "Track?" Tank looked to the back of the room. Raymond Track Mitchell, 51, private investigator, retired police detective, stepped forward. "I'll work the Oliver angle. Vincent Carter's records should show buyer information. If Oliver was sold to someone in the adoption ring, there's a paper trail. Even illegal operations keep records. I'll find him." Tank turned back to the room. Every eye on him. Friday is 3 days away. That's 73 hours from right now. We're not letting that transaction happen. But we're not going in hot. We're not vigilantes. We're protectors. We build a case. We gather evidence. We locate Oliver if he's findable. We make sure when this is over, Richard Hayes and everyone in his network spends the rest of their lives in prison. He paused. Let that sink in. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice, and making damn sure Hazel and Calvin are safe. Forever. All in favor? The verdict silence pattern. For a moment, nothing. Just the ticking of the clock on the wall and the distant sound of traffic outside. Then every hand went up. Not a single hesitation, not one dissenting voice. 47 men voting unanimously to help 2 children they'd never met before today. Tank looked at the raised hands, nodded once. Then we're committed. 73 hours. Let's bring these kids home. The room erupted into coordinated activity. Hammer immediately pulled up maps on his laptop. Oakwood State Forest. Mile marker 7. Logging roads. Sight lines. Approach routes. If they're meeting there Friday, we need reconnaissance before then. I'll take 3 brothers, scout the location tomorrow night, document everything. Positions, escape routes, camera placements. Wire was already typing on his phone. I'll need access to Richard's home network. If he has security cameras, I'll hack them. If he has computers, I'll mirror his drives remotely. Everything he's deleted, I'll recover. Preacher made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. FBI contacts. Trafficking division. Local field office. I'm calling in favors, he said. Getting ahead of this. When we present evidence, they need to be ready to move immediately. Track, spread Vincent Carter's information across a table. Wire had already pulled basic data. Philadelphia, 46 years old, operates out of an apartment in Kensington. Previous arrests. Fraud, forgery, nothing stuck. Smart operator. But everyone makes mistakes. I'll find his. In the corner, Calvin sat on a folding chair watching this unfold. Men moving with military precision. Phones ringing. Laptops opening. Maps spreading across tables. Hazel was asleep in his lap. Exhausted. Safe for the first time in months. Her small hand clutched his hoodie. A younger brother, maybe late 20s, vest reading diesel, approached with 2 paper plates. Burgers from the grill outside, fries, bottle of water. "Figured you're hungry," Diesel said quietly. "Sorry it's not fancy, but it's hot and it's real." Calvin took the plate with his free hand, whispered, "Thank you." "How's she doing?" Diesel nodded at Hazel. "She hasn't slept through the night in 3 months," Calvin said. "She has nightmares, wakes up screaming, every night." Diesel crouched to their level. "My daughter's 8, same age as you. If someone tried to hurt her, I'd move heaven and earth to stop it. That's what we're doing here, for your sister. You understand?" Calvin nodded. Bit into the burger. First real meal since morning. Richard didn't waste food on kids who didn't appreciate it. "What happens now?" Calvin asked between bites. "Now we work," Diesel said simply. "You rest. We'll have questions for you tomorrow. Details about your house, your dad's routine, anything that helps. But tonight, you're safe. She's safe. Sleep if you can." Across the room, Tank was on the phone again. Different call this time. "V-Rex, it's Tank, Pennsylvania chapter. I need to call in the network." A pause. Then Tank's voice, steady and serious. "Child trafficking case. 8-year-old approached me at a gas station with 43 cents asking me to buy his sister back from their father. Transaction scheduled Friday, 72 hours. Previous brother sold 3 years ago, whereabouts unknown. We're mobilizing full chapter, but I need backup from Maryland, Jersey, Delaware. This is going to be big." Another pause. "Appreciate it, brother. See you tomorrow." Tank hung up, turned to the room. "Maryland chapter sending 52 brothers. Jersey sending 44. Delaware's sending 37. Total of 180, including us. Largest mobilization Pennsylvania's seen since formation." A low whistle from one of the brothers. "For an 8-year-old, with 43 cents, someone said quietly. "For an 8-year-old who had the courage to ask," Tank corrected. "And for every kid who asked before him and got ignored." He walked to where Calvin sat. Knelt down again. Seemed like that was Tank's default with kids. Eye level, respectful. "Calvin, I want you to understand something. What we're about to do, it's not magic. It's work, hard work. Investigations, evidence gathering, legal procedures. It might get complicated. There might be moments where it looks like your dad's going to get away with this." Calvin's eyes widened, fear flashing. "But," Tank continued firmly, "we don't quit. When we commit to protecting someone, we see it through. All the way. You with me?" Calvin swallowed. "Oliver. Do you think... Is he... I don't know yet," Tank said honestly. "But Track's the best investigator I've ever known. If Oliver can be found, Track will find him. And if..." He paused. "If he can't be found, we'll know that too. And we'll make sure it never happens to another kid. Fair?" Calvin nodded slowly. "Get some rest," Tank said. "Big day tomorrow. You're gonna need your strength." He stood, returned to the planning table. Behind him, Calvin looked down at Hazel sleeping. Her face peaceful for the first time in weeks. The silver bracelet from Oliver, the one she never removed, caught the overhead light. Calvin's hand found his pocket. Felt the weight of the coins there. 1 quarter. 1 dime. 1 nickel. 3 pennies. 43 cents. Everything he had. Everything he'd been willing to give. And somehow, impossibly, it had been enough. Wednesday, November 13th, 6:42 a.m., 58 hours until transaction wire called tank at dawn. Got him. Vincent Carter. Apartment 4B, 2847 Kensington Avenue, Philadelphia. And tank, his computer's a goldmine. Client files going back 6 years. 14 children. Names, dates, dollar amounts. Tank was already dressed, coffee in hand. Oliver? Client file labeled Hayes Oliver. Sold June 14th, 2021. Buyer location? Towson, Maryland. Paid $160,000 total. $120,000 to Richard, $40,000 Carter's commission. Buyers listed as Kenneth and Patricia Morrison, 2847 Elmwood Drive. Tank's grip tightened on the phone. The kid's alive? File says successful placement, no complications. Track's already en route to Maryland with 3 brothers. If Oliver's there, we'll know by noon. And Richard's communications? Recovered 37 deleted text messages between Richard and Carter from the past month. November 11th, Richard texts. Friday confirmed, 9 p.m., same spot as Oliver, $150,000 cash as agreed. Blonde girl ready, buyers from NJ confirmed arrival. Carter replies. Buyers eager. Wired deposit $20,000 to my account yesterday. Remaining $130,000 cash in hand Friday. Tank closed his eyes. Evidence. Concrete. Admissible. Wire, you're a genius. Package everything for Preacher. Make sure chain of custody is documented. This needs to be FBI ready. Already done. Sending files now. Ashford Springs Baptist Church, 9:15 a.m. Preacher walked into the church office with 2 brothers flanking him, both in casual clothes, no vests. Professional appearance, respectful demeanor. The church secretary looked up. Can I help you? I'm here regarding your financial records, Preacher said calmly. I'm a retired federal agent, and we've received information about potential embezzlement from your accounts. I need to speak with whoever manages your auditing. The secretary's face paled. Our treasurer handles all financial matters. Richard Hayes. He's very meticulous. Been our treasurer for 8 years. Ma'am. Preacher's voice was gentle, but firm. Richard Hayes is under investigation for child trafficking. The embezzlement is secondary but relevant. I need access to your financial records. You can provide them voluntarily, or I can come back with federal agents and a warrant. Your choice. 15 minutes later, Preacher walked out with 3 years of church financial records on a flash drive. The secretary had been crying. He seemed like such a good man, always so responsible, never missed a Sunday. How could someone who leads Bible study do something like that? Preacher paused at the door. Evil doesn't always look like a monster, ma'am. Sometimes it wears a polo shirt and helps seniors with their taxes. That's what makes it dangerous. Towson, Maryland. 11:47 a.m. Track stood on the porch of 2847 Elmwood Drive. Nice suburban house, 2-car garage, basketball hoop in the driveway, American flag on the porch. Behind him, 3 brothers waited by their motorcycles. No vests, no patches, just leather jackets, looking like any other group of guys. Track rang the doorbell. A woman answered. Late 40s, neat appearance, cautious smile. Can I help you? Mrs. Patricia Morrison? Yes. Track pulled out his private investigator license. My name's Raymond Mitchell. I'm investigating a missing child case. I need to ask you about your son, Nathan. Patricia's expression shifted. Confusion. Wariness. Nathan? He's at school. What's this about? Ma'am, I need to ask you directly. Did you adopt a child in June 2021? A 7-year-old boy. Paid approximately $160,000 through a private adoption broker named Vincent Carter? The color drained from Patricia's face. She stepped back. That was a legal adoption. We have papers. Those papers are forged, Track said flatly. Vincent Carter is a human trafficker. The child you purchased was stolen from his family. His birth name is Oliver Hayes. His brothers have been looking for him for 3 years. Patricia stumbled, grabbed the doorframe. No, we were told. Vincent said he was a licensed facilitator, that the birth father couldn't care for him, that it was all legal. Where's your husband? At work. He's a pharmaceutical rep. Call him. Tell him to come home immediately. FBI will be here within the hour. Patricia was crying now, shaking. We didn't know. We paid so much money, we thought it had to be legitimate. Nobody would charge that much for something illegal. That's exactly how they operate, Track said. High price implies legitimacy. Forged documents look professional, and desperate people wanting a child don't ask too many questions. He softened slightly. Mrs. Morrison, I need you to understand. That boy has 2 brothers who love him, a father figure who's been looking for him, a family that wants him back. In 3 years, did he ever mention siblings? Ever have nightmares? Ever ask questions about his past? Patricia's face crumpled. He has nightmares sometimes. Wakes up crying. Says he can't remember faces, but he knows someone's missing. We thought it was trauma from being given up. It's trauma from being stolen. Hayes Residence, 2847. Pinewood Drive, 2:34 p.m. Hammer and 5 brothers conducted surveillance from a van parked 2 blocks away. High-powered cameras, listening equipment, laptop streaming security camera feeds that Wire had hacked. On screen, Richard Hayes at his home office desk, phone to his ear, looking calm, professional, a man working from home on an ordinary Wednesday. Hammer adjusted the directional microphone, picked up Richard's voice through the window. Yes, everything's on schedule. Friday night. No complications. She's prepared, compliant. The transfer will be smooth. Hammer hit record. Time-stamped. Documented. Got him, Hammer muttered. Wire, you getting this? Through the laptop speakers. Recording on my end, too. Crystal clear. Admissible quality. On screen, Richard hung up, stretched, stood from his desk, walked to the kitchen, made himself a sandwich, humming. Just a normal dad making lunch on a Wednesday afternoon. Same hands that would deliver his daughter to strangers in 50 hours. Same calm demeanor that had fooled CPS investigators, family court judges, school counselors, police officers. This was the villain mundanity moment. Richard Hayes looked like every other suburban father. That's what had made him so effective. Monsters didn't always rage and threaten. Sometimes they hummed while making sandwiches. Clubhouse. 4:18 p.m. The room was full again. 47 Pennsylvania brothers. 52 from Maryland who'd arrived this morning. More rolling in from Jersey and Delaware. Tank stood at the head of the table. Track beside him. Brothers, we found Oliver. The room erupted, questions shouting over each other. Tank raised his hand. Silence fell. Oliver Hayes is alive, living with Kenneth and Patricia Morrison in Towson, Maryland, under the name Nathan Morrison. He's physically healthy, attending 5th grade, but he doesn't remember his original name. Repressed memories. The Morrisons claim they thought the adoption was legal, paid Vincent Carter $160,000, have forged paperwork. Track stepped forward. FBI is at the Morrison house right now. Oliver's being placed in protective custody. DNA test being conducted to confirm identity, but physical description matches perfectly. Birthmark shaped like Michigan on his neck. Scar on right hand from falling off bike when he was 5. It's him. Someone in the back. How do we tell Calvin? Tank looked toward the side room where Calvin and Hazel had been sleeping, supervised by Diesel and 2 other brothers. Carefully, with proof. We bring Oliver here first. Let them see each other. Otherwise it's just words, and Calvin's heard enough lies. Preacher spoke up from the corner. Church records confirm $87,000 missing from accounts Richard managed. Embezzlement over 18 months. Church board had no idea. Richard handled all reporting, all audits. He was planning to replace it with Hazel's sale money. Wire added, Vincent Carter's records show 13 other children besides Oliver and Hazel. We have names, dates, buyer information. FBI's already coordinating with trafficking division. This isn't just about one family anymore. This is a network takedown. Tank nodded. Which means we do this by the book. No mistakes. No shortcuts. When we take down Richard Hayes Friday night, everything has to be admissible, documented, legal. Speaking of Friday, Hammer pulled up a map. I scouted Oakwood Forest last night. Mile marker 7, logging road. Perfect location for illegal transaction. Isolated, no witnesses, no cameras. But also perfect for us. Single road in and out. We can position brothers in a perimeter. No escape routes. When Richard arrives with Hazel, we document everything. Wait for exchange to begin. Then we move. Who's making the arrest? Someone asked. Preacher answered. FBI and Pennsylvania State Police. We're witnesses and backup. Our job is to make sure Hazel stays safe, and Richard can't run. Their job is to make it legal. The witness testimonies. Tank looked at his notes. We need to document the system failures. Show this wasn't just Richard being clever. It was authorities dropping the ball repeatedly. Wire pulled contact information for everyone who was called. I want statements. By nightfall, 3 brothers had conducted interviews. Witness 1. Dennis Eugene Hamilton, 48, CPS caseworker. The interview happened in a coffee shop. Dennis Hamilton looked exhausted. Bags under his eyes. Hands shaking as he held his coffee cup. I investigated the case in August, Dennis said quietly. Kindergarten teacher filed a mandatory report. Said Hazel told her, Daddy's giving me away like he gave away Oliver. I went to the house August 19th. What did you find? Preacher asked. Richard Hayes was... Dennis paused. Calm. Professional. Had paperwork ready. Adoption documents, attorney information, explanation prepared. He said Hazel was being adopted by extended family in Florida, legal private adoption, child confused about what adoption meant. The documents looked legitimate. Professional letterhead, notary stamps, attorney signatures. Did you verify? Dennis's face crumpled. No, I should have. But I carried 214 cases. I'm supposed to carry 50. I'm overwhelmed every single day. The paperwork looked real. The father was cooperative. I saw no visible injuries on the child. So I marked the case unfounded, child's misunderstanding of legal family arrangement, and moved on. His voice broke. I failed her. I was so buried in other cases that I took the easy answer. I should have spoken to Hazel privately, should have verified the adoptive family existed, should have done a follow-up visit, but I didn't. And now, he looked at Preacher. Is she safe? She's safe, Preacher confirmed. Dennis put his head in his hands. I became a social worker to protect kids. But the system's so broken, so understaffed, that we can't do our jobs properly. And children pay the price. Witness 2. Judge Harold Patterson, 63, Pike County. Family Court. The judge agreed to meet at his chambers after hours. He sat behind his desk, looking older than his years. The grandmother filed for emergency custody in September, Judge Patterson said. Patricia Walsh said her grandchildren were being removed through suspicious adoption. One child already missing 3 years, concerned for safety. Why did you deny custody? The law. Judge Patterson's voice was flat. Richard Hayes appeared with an attorney. He had stable income, owned his home, legal custody per his late wife's will. The grandmother was 71, on fixed Social Security, lived in a small apartment. No evidence of abuse or imminent danger. He removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes. I followed the law. Parental rights take precedence without clear evidence of harm. But he looked at Track, who was conducting this interview. Sometimes the law isn't enough. I should have ordered a home study, should have investigated why a child disappeared 3 years ago with no follow-up contact, should have questioned why the adoptive family couldn't be reached. Why didn't you? Because I see 50 cases a week. Because the system prioritizes family reunification and parental authority. Because judges who question too much get accused of overreach. He paused. I let procedure override instinct. That child almost died because I valued paperwork over her life. Witness 3. Rachel Foster, 34, school counselor. Rachel met with Tank at a park, sat on a bench, wouldn't make eye contact. Hazel was in kindergarten at Ashford Springs Elementary until 8 months ago, Rachel said. Bright kid, quiet, too well behaved, almost disturbingly compliant. I noticed signs of anxiety. Called Richard in October to follow up on therapy he'd mentioned. What did he say? That Hazel was doing much better, that they'd decided homeschooling would reduce her stress, that she was thriving at home, happy, well-adjusted. Rachel's voice hardened. I didn't follow up. Child was no longer enrolled, technically outside my jurisdiction. I had 400 other students. I assumed the parent was handling it appropriately. Did you try to see her? No. Rachel looked at Tank finally. And that's on me. When a child leaves my school, they leave my care. That's the excuse I told myself. But the truth? I should have driven to that house, should have demanded to see Hazel, should have called CPS myself when something felt wrong. I was lazy, and it almost cost a child her life. Thursday, November 14th, 11:23, AM 33 hours until transaction. The FBI van pulled up to Tank's choppers. Agent Maria Espinoza stepped out. 42, sharp eyes, 20 years with the Bureau's trafficking division. Behind her, a boy, 10 years old, brown hair, thin frame, wearing clothes that fit properly but looked new, clutching a social worker's hand. Oliver Hayes. Tank knelt immediately, eye level, gentle. Oliver? My name's Tank. I'm a friend of your brother, Calvin. He's inside. He's been looking for you for 3 years. Oliver's eyes, light blue, same as Hazel's, widened. Calvin? He's here. With your sister Hazel. They're safe. They're waiting for you. Oliver's face crumpled. 3 years of repressed memories flooding back. I thought... They told me nobody wanted me, that I was forgotten. Never, Tank said firmly. Not for one single day. Calvin tried to find you. He wrote down everything. He saved every penny he had, and when nobody would help him, he walked up to a stranger and asked anyway, because he never stopped believing you were out there. Tank stood, offered his hand. Oliver took it. They walked inside. The reunion happened in the clubhouse side room. Calvin sitting on a couch, Hazel beside him, both looking up when the door opened. Oliver standing in the doorway. 3 seconds of absolute silence. Then Calvin's face transformed. Recognition, disbelief, joy so intense it was almost pain. Oliver? Calvin? They crashed together. Two brothers who'd been separated for 3 years, holding each other, both crying, both talking over each other. "They said you were dead. I couldn't find you. I thought you forgot me. Never, never, I'd never." Hazel stood slowly, walked over, touched Oliver's arm like he might disappear. "You came back," she whispered. "Calvin said you would. I didn't believe him. But you came back." Oliver pulled her into the hug. 3 siblings, reunited. Around them, 40 bikers stood watching, hard men with scarred knuckles and intimidating patches, half of them crying. Tank turned away, hand over his vest pocket where Melissa's photo lived. This was why he'd survived when she hadn't. For moments like this. Friday, November 15th. 8 p.m. 1 hour before transaction. Oakwood State Forest, mile marker 7, logging road. 180 motorcycles parked in formation half a mile back from the transaction site. Engines off, lights off, complete silence. Hammer positioned brothers in a grid. Ex-military precision. Every escape route covered. Sightlines clear. Communication headsets on. FBI and Pennsylvania State Police staged further back. 12 vehicles. 26 officers. Arrest warrants ready. Wrench operated a surveillance drone from a mobile command center. 4K video, infrared, recording everything. On the logging road, empty, dark, temperature 28 degrees, below freezing. At the clubhouse, Calvin, Hazel, and Oliver waited with Diesel. Safe, warm, protected. At 8:47 p.m., headlights appeared on the logging road. Richard Hayes's sedan, driving slowly, looking for mile marker 7. Hammer's voice over comms. "Primary target arriving. All units stand by." The sedan stopped. Richard got out, opened the back door. Hazel stepped out. Pink dress with white flowers, white cardigan, looking small and terrified and resigned. Richard checked his watch, looked around, waiting. At 8:53 p.m., a second vehicle arrived. Black SUV, New Jersey plates. 2 people got out. Man and woman, 40s, looking nervous but determined. The buyers. Richard and the man shook hands, spoke in low tones. The woman knelt in front of Hazel, examining her like merchandise. Wrench's drone captured everything. Crystal clear footage. Richard pulled an envelope from his jacket, showed the man. The man pulled out a thick envelope. Cash. They exchanged. Richard counted the money, nodded, reached for Hazel's hand. That's when the forest exploded with light. 180 motorcycle headlights switching on simultaneously. A wall of blinding illumination from every direction. Engines roared to life. Thunder that shook the ground. FBI vehicles rolled forward, lights flashing, sirens wailing. "Richard Hayes, FBI, you are under arrest!" Richard froze, envelope of cash in one hand, Hazel's wrist in the other. His face went through stages, confusion, realization, terror. The buyers ran for their SUV, got 10 feet before FBI agents tackled them. Richard tried to run, got 5 steps before Hammer appeared from the trees, 6'2", 250 pounds of controlled fury, and put him on the ground, face in the dirt, arms behind his back. "Don't move," Hammer said quietly. "You're done." FBI agents swarmed. Read rights, applied handcuffs. Tank walked through the perimeter, went straight to Hazel. She was frozen, trembling, eyes wide. Tank knelt, removed his vest again. He'd gotten it back from Calvin for this moment, draped it over her shoulders. "You're safe, sweetheart. It's over. Your brothers are waiting for you. Let's go home." Hazel looked at him, then at her father being dragged to an FBI vehicle. Is he going away forever?" "Forever," Tank confirmed. For the first time in 3 months, Hazel smiled. Charges filed, November 16th, 2024. Richard Thomas Hayes. Child trafficking. 2 counts, federal. 25 years each conspiracy to commit child trafficking. 15 years embezzlement. 7 years fraud. 5 years child endangerment. 2 counts, state. 3 years each, Kenneth and Patricia Morrison. Trafficking of a minor. Purchasing trafficked child. 15 years each conspiracy. 10 years each fraud. 5 years each identity theft, changing Oliver's identity. 3 years each Vincent Michael Carter. Child trafficking, 14 counts, federal. Life without parole. Conspiracy, 25 years, concurrent. Money laundering, 20 years, concurrent. Dr. Brian Wallace, document forger. Conspiracy to traffic children, 14 counts. 18 years federal. Stephanie Nicole Grant, Carter's partner. Conspiracy to traffic children, 14 counts. 5 years, plea deal for testimony. All denied bail. Trial scheduled for March 2025. Bail recommendation for Richard, $2 million. A man who'd stolen $87,000 and had nothing to show for, it wouldn't be making it anytime soon. Agent Espinoza stood outside the Pike County Courthouse after the arraignment. Tank beside her. "You know," she said, "I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen trafficking operations taken down by massive task forces, years-long investigations, millions in resources. This one? Solved by an 8-year-old with 43 cents and the courage to ask for help." "Calvin did the hard part," Tank said. "We just showed up." "You showed up with 180 motorcycles and a support network that moves faster than most federal agencies." "We protect kids," Tank said simply. "That's not negotiable. That's not complicated. A child asks for help, we help. End of story." Espinoza smiled. The world could use more end-of-story people. Justice had been served. But justice wasn't the ending. It was only the beginning. November 18th, 2024. 3 days after rescue. The apartment smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. 2 bedrooms, clean, warm, windows with actual curtains, light blue, chosen by Hazel because they look like sky. Calvin stood in the doorway of the bedroom he'd share with Oliver. 2 beds. Real beds with actual mattresses, not the worn-out hand-me-downs from Richard's house. Dressers. Lamps. A bookshelf already filling with books that Tank and the brothers had donated. "This is ours?" Oliver asked quietly. "Like, really ours?" Diesel, who'd spent the past 3 days coordinating housing logistics, smiled. "Really yours. Lease is in your grandmother's name. Patricia's moving from Ohio this weekend. Club covered first month's rent and security deposit. After that, Patricia's Social Security plus the support fund we set up will handle it." Calvin turned. "Support fund?" Brothers took donations. Every chapter that responded. Pennsylvania, Maryland, Jersey, Delaware, plus some individuals who heard the story. Raised $42,000 in 3 days. Set up in a trust for you 3 kids. Education, medical, Whatever you need." The number was so large Calvin couldn't process it. 42,000? "People wanted to help," Diesel said simply. "When they hear about an 8-year-old with 43 cents saving his sister, they want to be part of that story." Preacher handled the legal protection. Restraining order filed against Richard before he even made bail, which he couldn't, but the order was permanent anyway. 500 feet minimum distance, no contact. Violation meant immediate arrest. Emergency custody granted to Patricia Walsh. Full legal guardianship. Richard's parental rights terminated. Paperwork filed, approved, permanent. "He can't touch you," Preacher explained to Calvin and Hazel on day 4. "Ever. Even if he gets out of prison in 20 years, which he won't. But even if, he has 0 legal right to contact you. You're free." Wire set up the therapy appointments. Dr. Amanda Foster, child psychologist specializing in trafficking trauma, office 20 minutes from the apartment. First session was just Calvin, sitting on a comfortable couch. Dr. Foster across from him, calm presence, gentle voice. "Calvin, what you did was incredibly brave. But I want you to understand, the responsibility for protecting Hazel was never supposed to be yours. You're 8 years old. An adult should have helped you long before it got to that gas station." Calvin looked at his hands. The leather bracelet still on his wrist. Melissa's name worn but visible. "But nobody did help. I tried everybody. Teachers, police, counselors. Nobody believed me." "I know. And that was a failure of every adult who should have listened. But you know what? You didn't stop trying. Even when you had no reason to believe it would work, you tried one more time. That's not just brave, Calvin. That's heroic." Tears came then. First time Calvin had cried since the gas station. Months of holding it together, being strong for Hazel, carrying weight no child should carry. Dr. Foster handed him tissues. "You can rest now. Other people are carrying the weight. You get to be 8 years old again." Hazel's first session was different. Art therapy. Dr. Foster had crayons, paper, no pressure to talk. Hazel drew for 30 minutes. Didn't speak. When she finished, she showed Dr. Foster the picture. 3 stick figures holding hands. One tall with a beard, labeled Tank in careful letters. One medium-sized, labeled Calvin. One small, labeled Me. Behind them, a wall of motorcycles. In the sky, another stick figure with wings, labeled Oliver, came back. Dr. Foster studied it. "Tell me about this picture." "This is when I stopped being scared," Hazel whispered. "When the motorcycles came. When the lights turned on. When Tank said I was safe. This is when I knew Calvin was right. Somebody did help." "How do you feel now?" Hazel considered. "Still a little scared, but less, because Calvin's still here, and Oliver's back, and Tank checks on us every day." Progress. Slow. Real. November 25th. Track handled the school situation. His background as a detective meant he knew how to navigate bureaucracy. Calvin and Hazel enrolled at Riverside Elementary. Oliver enrolled at Riverside Middle. All 3 in the same school district. All 3 with the same counselor assigned, specialized in trauma-informed education. First day back was hard. Calvin sat at his new desk in 3rd grade, everyone staring. They'd seen the news. 8-year-old who saved his sister. Hell's Angels rescue. Viral story. Teacher introduced him. "This is Calvin Hayes. He's joining our class. Let's make him feel welcome." At lunch, 3 kids approached his table. "Is it true?" one asked. "You really walked up to a Hell's Angel with 43 cents?" Calvin nodded. That's the bravest thing I've ever heard. They sat down. Started talking. Normal kid conversation. Favorite video games. Sports. TV shows. Normal. Calvin almost cried from relief. Hazel struggled more. First grade was overwhelming after 3 months of thinking she was going to disappear. She clung to Calvin between classes. Panicked if she couldn't see him. The school created an accommodation. If Hazel needed to see Calvin during the day, she could visit his classroom. Just wave from the door. Reassure herself he was real, still there, safe. First week she visited 8 times a day. Second week, 5 times. Third week, twice. By December, once a day during recess. A quick hug, then back to her own classroom. Healing was happening. Slowly. In tiny increments. Hammer taught Calvin self-defense. Not to fight, to feel safe. Know you can protect yourself if you need to. Once a week, Saturday mornings. Basic techniques. Awareness. Confidence building. Calvin started walking taller. Making eye contact. Taking up space. Wire set up computers for all 3 kids. Homework help. Educational games. You're gonna need tech skills for the future. Might as well start now. Oliver discovered he loved coding. Started learning Python. Wire mentored him remotely, answering questions, debugging programs. Preacher came every Sunday. Not for church. None of the kids wanted anything to do with religion after Richard's Church Treasurer Act. Just to check in. Talk. Answer questions. Is Dad really in prison forever? Hazel asked one Sunday. He's awaiting trial, Preacher explained. But the evidence is overwhelming. Text messages, bank records, eyewitness testimony, video footage from the forest. His lawyer already offered a plea deal, 50 years minimum. Prosecutor rejected it. Wants trial, wants maximum sentence. What's maximum? Life in prison. No possibility of parole. Ever. Hazel processed this. Good. Tank visited every Tuesday and Thursday. Consistent. Reliable. Father figure who'd stepped into the gap. Brought pizza on Tuesdays. Played board games with the kids. Helped Oliver with math homework. Read to Hazel before bed. One Thursday, in early December, Oliver asked, "Why did you help us? You didn't know us." Tank sat back, considered, then pulled out his wallet. Removed the photo he'd carried for 18 years. "This is Melissa, my daughter. She died when she was 4. Drowned. I was overseas, couldn't get back in time. For 18 years I've asked myself what I could have done differently." He looked at Oliver, at Calvin, at Hazel. Then Calvin walked up to me with 43 cents and gave me a chance to do something right. To save someone else's daughter when I couldn't save my own. You kids gave me purpose, gave me a reason I survived when she didn't. Oliver hugged him. Spontaneous. Fierce. "You're like a dad," Oliver whispered. Tank's eyes watered. "Yeah, kid, I guess I am." Calvin's worn sneakers, the ones that had been too small, toes cramped, scuffing on pavement that day at the gas station, sat in the closet now, replaced by new shoes that fit properly. But Calvin kept them, reminder of where he'd been, what he'd survived. The 43 cents sat on his dresser, in a small glass dish Tank had given him. 1 quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 3 pennies. Every morning, Calvin touched them, remembered, felt the weight of everything they represented. Courage, desperation, hope, the moment everything changed. May 17th, 2025. The clubhouse was packed. Not for a crisis this time, for a celebration. Calvin's 9th birthday. But really, it was more than that. 6 months since the gas station. 6 months since the rescue. 6 months of healing. Balloons everywhere. Decorations. A massive cake that said, "Happy Birthday, Calvin," our hero in blue frosting. 47 Pennsylvania brothers. Plus Patricia, grandmother. Plus Dr. Foster. Plus teachers from Riverside Elementary. Plus neighbors from the apartment complex. Plus Oliver and Hazel, both laughing, both healthy, both here. Tank stood at the front of the room, called for attention. "Before we do cake, I got something for Calvin. All the brothers contributed. Come here, son." Calvin approached. Confused. They'd already given him presents, new bike, books, clothes. Tank handed him a shadow box frame. Behind the glass? 43 cents. 1 quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 3 pennies. Mounted carefully. Below them, an engraved brass plate. 43 cents of courage. Calvin Hayes, November 12th, 2024. The bravest kid I know. Calvin stared at it. You kept my money?" "You gave it to me that day," Tank said. "Offered everything you had. I told you to keep it, but I also knew. Someday you'd need to remember. Remember that courage doesn't have a price tag. Remember that 43 cents and a brave heart is all it takes to change everything." Calvin hugged the frame to his chest. Couldn't speak. Tank continued. "But that's not all. Brothers from all 4 chapters collected donations. We filled something else for you." Diesel walked over carrying Calvin's Spider-Man piggy bank, the one he'd kept his original 43 cents in. It was heavy. Full. "Open it," Diesel said. Calvin twisted the bottom plug. Money poured out. Bills, coins, a lot of coins. Patricia helped count. Gasped. $4,300. 100 times what you offered, Tank explained. From brothers who wanted you to know, what you did mattered. Your courage inspired 300 men across 4 states. We matched your courage with our gratitude. The room applauded. Not polite applause. Thunder. Standing ovation. Calvin stood there, 9 years old, surrounded by family, blood and chosen, holding 43 cents in a frame, and $4,300 in a piggy bank, and the knowledge that he'd saved 2 lives. Hazel made honor roll 2nd semester. 1st grade. Reading at 3rd grade level. Nightmares down to once a week instead of every night. She'd joined Girl Scouts, had 5 friends, giggled during sleepovers, was learning to be 6 again. Oliver excelled at coding. Built his first app, a simple game. Wire helped him publish it. 300 downloads in the first month. He still had nightmares, still struggled with memory gaps. But therapy was helping. He could talk about the Morrison house now without shutting down. Could acknowledge he'd been stolen without falling apart. Calvin started volunteering. Once a month, he visited the Hells Angels clubhouse and helped organize the new program they'd created. Angels Watch. Inspired by Calvin's story, the Pennsylvania chapter launched a formal child safety initiative. Brothers trained to recognize trafficking signs. Partnered with schools to create safe reporting channels, established a 24/7 hotline for kids who needed help. First 3 months, 17 calls, 12 legitimate cases. 8 children removed from dangerous situations. The program expanded. Maryland adopted it, then Jersey, then Delaware, then chapters across the country, all because an 8-year-old with 43 cents proved that the system could be bypassed when the system failed. March 2025. 3 days. Jury deliberation. 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing. Consecutive life terms. Minimum 125 years before parole eligibility. Richard would die in prison, no question. The kids didn't attend. Dr. Foster advised against it. But Patricia did. Sat in the gallery. Watched her son-in-law get exactly what he deserved. Afterward, she called Tank. It's over. Really over. He can never hurt them again. Good, Tank said. Now they can finish healing. This story isn't really about bikers or patches or motorcycles rumbling into forests with 180 headlights. It's about an 8-year-old boy who had every reason to give up, who'd been failed by teachers, by police, by courts, by every adult whose job was to protect him, choosing to try one more time anyway. It's about a father figure who never stopped listening to the voice that said someone needed help, even when that someone was a stranger with impossible claims. It's about 200 men who could have chosen violence, but chose justice, who understood that real strength isn't about intimidation. It's about protection, about showing up, about being present when a child asks for help. There are hazels everywhere, children falling through cracks in systems that are designed to fail them, children being hurt by the very people who should protect them, children whose voices are dismissed because they're too young to understand, or confused, or making it up. And there are Calvins everywhere, kids barely surviving themselves, carrying weight no child should carry, trying desperately to save someone they love with resources that seem laughably inadequate. You don't need a leather vest to be a protector. You don't need a motorcycle or a patch or a Brotherhood of 180. You just need to care enough to act. Pay attention. Listen when a child hesitates. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Call the authorities. And if the authorities fail, call again. Make noise. Be the person who doesn't look away when looking away would be easier. Stand in the gap between a victim and the system that's failing them. Be the person who believes a child with 43 cents asking for the impossible. Because here's what Calvin proved that November afternoon at a gas station in rural Pennsylvania. Sometimes the most powerless person in a room holds the key to saving someone else's entire world. Sometimes 43 cents is enough. Sometimes one voice, small, shaky, terrified, but speaking anyway, is enough to trigger a wave of protection that saves multiple lives. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that voice finds a family waiting to catch them when they fall. September 2025, 10 months after the gas station. Calvin stood at home plate. Little League championship game, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, bases loaded. In the stands, Hazel, Oliver, Patricia, Dr. Foster, 15 Hells Angels in their vests, Tank front and center. The pitcher wound up. Through. Calvin swung. The crack of the bat echoed across the field. The ball sailed over the fence. Grand slam. Game over. Championship won. Calvin's team swarmed him at home plate. Celebration. Joy. Noise. In the stands, Tank stood, clapped, whistled, pulled Melissa's photo from his vest pocket, kissed it gently. "This one's for you, baby girl. We saved them. We got them home." After the game, Calvin found Tank in the parking lot. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it." Tank ruffled his hair. "You played great." I've been thinking. Calvin reached into his pocket, pulled out the glass dish with 43 cents. I want to give this to someone else. Someone who needs help, but doesn't think anyone will listen. Pass it forward. Tank smiled. That's the most powerful thing you've ever said. Will you help me find them? Always. They stood there in the late summer sun, a 9-year-old boy and a 52-year-old biker. Family. Brotherhood. Protection. In Calvin's other pocket, his phone buzzed. Text from Hazel. Great game. Oliver says we're getting ice cream to celebrate. Love you. Calvin typed back. Love you too. Be there in 5. He pocketed the phone, looked at Tank. Ready to go? Ready. They walked toward Tank's motorcycle. Calvin climbed on back, had ridden hundreds of times now, comfortable, safe, home. The engine roared to life, that familiar thunder, the sound that had once been terrifying and was now the sound of protection. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Calvin looked at the glass dish in his hand. 43 cents. 1 quarter. 1 dime. 1 nickel. 3 pennies. The exact amount it had taken to change everything. The exact amount he'd be willing to give again, in a heartbeat, for anyone who needed help. Because that's what protectors do. They show up. They listen. They act. 43 cents at a time. If this story moved you, subscribe to Valiant Bikers and share it with someone who needs to remember that real protectors still exist. Drop a comment telling us, who was your protector when you needed one? Or who did you protect when nobody else would? Let us know you stand with Calvin, with Hazel, with Oliver, with every person who refuses to stay silent when they see wrong. Because this world needs more people willing to kneel down, make themselves small, and listen when a child speaks. More people willing to believe the impossible. More people willing to act when 43 cents is offered as payment for miracles. Maybe, just maybe, that person could be you.